On the afternoon of November 7th, 2025, the 12th Civil Division of the Seoul Western District Court in South Korea held the fourth hearing in Source Music's 500 million won damages lawsuit against Min Hee-jin. And Source Music had filed the lawsuit in July 2024, last year, through the same court. Now, during the session, legal representatives from both sides appeared, and Source Music's lawyers refuted Min Hee-jin's past remarks at a press conference last year, such as when she said, "I picked NewJeans members," or HYBE broke his promise to let me debut its first girl group. Now, to support their position, Source Music submitted trainee contract videos as evidence regarding the NewJeans member selection process. And they argued something like, it was Source Music that cast the NewJeans members, and there was never any promise about debuting the first girl group. And Min Hee was cast by Source Music, and Heejin was street cast in Anyang. And Heejin's mother even mentioned that it was surprising that they happened to come all the way over there. So in this video, we're going to break down what really happened inside that hearing, and why every case seems to end the same way, and how Min Hee-jin's public image is unraveling faster than ever. Okay, so let's start with this article released by Dispatch today, November 8th in the morning, titled 양아치냐는 양아치가 아니다. Min Hee-jin 소스 반격의 보법. Roughly translated as, a thug? She says she's not one. Source Music's counterattack against Min Hee-jin. So 양아치 is a specific phrase or the expression that Min Hee-jin used during her press conference to diss HYBE. Oh, we're going to talk about that, okay? So it starts like this. 내로남양. I would say we can translate that as like hypocritical much. So the phrase 내로남양 here is their play on the phrase 내로남불 in Korean. 내가 하면 로맨스, 남이 하면 불륜, meaning you criticize others for what you do yourself. And it mocks how Min Hee-jin sued like netizens for calling her 양아치, a thug, yet she used the same word herself to insult HYBE or Source Music. And now she's saying that she's innocent, okay? Last April, Min Hee-jin compared Source Music to a thug, 양아치, in response to being asked for compensation after the transfer of NewJeans. She said, "Isn't this so thuggish? 이건 너무 양아치 같지 않아?" criticizing the company, meaning Source Music. Ironically, Dispatch notes, thug or 양아치 is a sensitive word for Min Hee-jin herself. She once filed a defamation complaint against an online commenter who called her a thug, and even received a settlement payment from that individual. So yeah, I thought that was interesting, and I looked it up, and I think we have already talked about this in August of this year. So in August 2005, Min Hee-jin partially won a damage lawsuit that she filed against online commenters who had insulted her. And according to legal sources, the judge of the Seoul Western District Court Civil Division ruled on August 26th that of the three defendants, Min Hee-jin sued for 300,000 Korean won each in damages. Only one was ordered to pay a partial amount, 30,000 Korean won. Oh, never mind. So she sued for 3 million Korean won each in damages. But then that one was ordered to pay a partial amount, 30,000 Korean won. And the court dismissed the other two claims entirely, though. Now, the comments in question included, there are always jerks like this in life, and a jerk's a jerk, I admit it. But the court found that, considering the tone, context, and the parties' positions, those remarks did not amount to unlawful infringement of personal rights. But the comment that read, "In the end, she's just a foul-mouthed thug," that one was deemed defamatory, which is ironic. So that the court explained that it constitutes an insult and a contemptuous personal attack, an expression of disdain that goes beyond mere opinion. So the writer of that comment, I'm assuming she had to pay 300,000 Korean won. Now, back to the article. Source Music has struck back, Dispatch says. They are holding her accountable for using the word 양아치, thug, arguing that she distorted the facts and damaged the agency's reputation and credibility by using that term publicly. Of course, that's not the main point of the lawsuit. It's partial, part of it. But Dispatch started this article like this to grab people's attention, and they're pretty good at grabbing our attention, right? Now, Dispatch says Min Hee-jin's defense was unconvincing. She insisted there's a clear difference between saying, "Are you a thug? 너 양아치냐? 너네 양아치냐?" and "You are a thug. 너네 양아치다." So the difference between the question form and a statement. Her reasoning boiled down to when she says thug, it's a figure of speech summarizing a situation, but when others use it toward her, it's character defamation. And the Dispatch now begins. At the fourth hearing of Source Music's damages lawsuit against Min Hee-jin, introducing, that's what I meant, beginning the official introduction, held by the 12th Civil Division of the Seoul Western District Court, the company presented several of Min Hee-jin's past public remarks as evidence. According to Source Music, Min Hee-jin claimed that 1. She personally cast the NewJeans members, 2. She had been promised HYBE's first girl group, and 3. Source Music neglected the trainees, and 4. The company traded them like thugs. So that was Min Hee-jin's claims, according to Source Music. Whether her statements are true or not can be determined through objective evidence, Source Music stated, but Min Hee-jin has failed to present any evidence. So let's find it out. How many receipts that Source Music has. And Dispatch included this photo from March of 2021. And this is the practice room at Source Music, including the NewJeans members as trainees and some other candidates at the time. 1. Did Min Hee-jin cast the NewJeans members? So that's the first section of this article. Min Hee-jin's claim. At the time, even though I was the one casting the members, Source Music wouldn't even let me meet them properly, worried that I would take them away. I trained them using my songs, directed the choreography, and handled things myself. Source Music's rebuttal. Minji was cast before Min Hee-jin even joined HYBE, which both sides acknowledge. Heejin was street cast in Anyang, city of Anyang, by a Source Music staff member. In the trainee contract video, Heejin's mother says to the staff, "It's such a coincidence we met here in Anyang," or "It's so surprising that you came all the way to Anyang." Heejin was personally persuaded to join by Source Music CEO, that is So Sung-jin. For those of you who don't know, this is So Sung-jin, right here. All right, back to the article. Where are we? Danielle had been a trainee at another agency, but when her manager moved to Source Music, she followed. Honey was selected through the Plus Global Edition co-hosted by HYBE and Source Music, an event in which Min Hee-jin never appeared as a judge. And this is a fact, which was interestingly noted by the recent court judgment on ADOR versus NewJeans case, which I have covered in a footnote. First footnote. Trainee contracts and transfer to ADOR. Defendant Minji signed a trainee contract with Source Music on November 23rd, 2018, Honey on November 23rd, 2019, Heejin on February 3rd, 2020, Danielle on July 16, 2020, and Kane on January 19, 2021. Until 2021, they trained Source Music under Source Music as Team N. After ADOR was founded on November 2nd, 2021, they continued their preparations for debut as ADOR trainees. And I have already covered this full document. And the source, the court is well aware of that. Now, back to the article. Min Hee-jin's legal team, Sejong, responded. When Min Hee-jin said she cast the members, she didn't mean she scouted them on the street or signed contracts herself. She meant that she selected the members of the N team, or Team N, which is a pre-debut lineup for NewJeans. Even though the Korean article says N team, I would use it like an English expression, Team N, just so that we don't get confused by the another HYBE boy group N team. And so she meant that she selected the members of the Team N, assigned their roles, and built the group's branding. They added that Min Hee-jin oversaw the branding of HYBE's global audition to attract trainees and will compare HYBE's audition posters before and after her involvement as evidence, showing, they said, how effective her branding was for teenage applicants. Source Music countered that the court had already ruled otherwise in a separate injunction case, determining that there was no evidence Min Hee-jin directly participated in the selection of the NewJeans members. Now, let's briefly go back to what Min Hee-jin has said. At that time, she said, even though I was the one casting the members, Source Music wouldn't even let me meet them properly, worried I would take them away. I trained them using my songs, directed the choreography, and handled things myself. So I guess that's how Sejong lawyers interpreted that statement. Now, about what Source Music said, that the court had already ruled otherwise in a separate injunction case, determining that there was no evidence Min Hee-jin directly participated in the selection of the NewJeans members. So we are talking about this one, which I have translated in full version, and I have included this on, my Patreon page. It's a Korean High Court decision. Page 3. According to the record, the following series of premises or underlying circumstances related to the exclusive contract can be identified. Originally, NewJeans were trainees under Team N, belonging to Source Music. Source Music entered into training contracts with NewJeans, starting with, I'm going to skip this part because we have already read it, but this part is important. In particular, Minji was already selected before Min Hee-jin joined HYBE. See? And there's no objective evidence that Min Hee-jin directly participated in the process of selecting the remaining NewJeans members as NewJeans members of Source Music, as the trainee members of Source Music. So there we go. The Korean court, the judges, have already acknowledged this. All right, back to the article. Second part. Oh, and then Dispatch included this screenshot of the KakaoTalk conversation between Min Hee-jin and the shaman, which I have already translated like this, right? Back in 2021, March 24th to 31st, Min Hee-jin said, looking at the company, it feels like a waste to let it go. In exactly 3 years, it will be like a corporate merger and you will take it over, the shaman said. Min Hee-jin said, yeah, I want to take it for myself. I'll launch the girl group under my label and I'll fight and defeat So Sung-jin. Who exactly am I supposed to run my label with? Am I teaming up with President Kim Sung-soo and taking over Bang Si-hyuk's company? And the shaman said, with the 5 Eagle brothers. Min Hee-jin says, haha, wow, shaman. President Kim Sung-soo will take Bang Si-hyuk's company away for you. Min Hee-jin, it would have been hard without the guidance. Shaman, you will achieve everything in just 3 years. Yep, and we still don't know what they meant by the 5 Eagle brothers. So don't ask me. I don't have an answer for you. Now, the next section. Was there a promise of HYBE's first girl group? Here was Min Hee-jin's claim. The NewJeans girls all joined, believing they would debut as HYBE's first girl group under my direction. And it says that, it sounds like the NewJeans girls joined the company in the first place because of me. It's always me when we talk about Min Hee-jin. Source Music refuted this by saying, there was never any promise to debut them as HYBE's first girl group. And they cited trainee contract video as evidence. Interesting. Like Danielle's mother is seen asking for an option to leave Source Music if Danielle doesn't make the debut lineup, clearly implying no guaranteed debut. Similarly, Hae's mother asked a comparable question. In the entertainment industry, the company argued it's simply impossible for an agency to promise a trainee a first debut position. And it's super interesting how they have this video of them as trainees signing the contract. And I was going to talk about it at the end, but it makes sense given, for example, if you have watched Le Seraphim's documentary series, Source Music films a lot. I mean, this is the case for like Big Hit as well, just HYBE groups, HYBE labels. They do tons of filming and the documentary, and it's so cool that they do that. They keep track of everything. And this scene of Sakura, who was already a very famous idol member even before joining Source Music. So this scene includes her signing the contract, which is pretty historic, and it was included in the documentary series. So I'm assuming that Source Music filmed that, NewJeans member trainees signing the contract to, I don't know, maybe use later for their own debut documentary, But yeah, I thought that was pretty fascinating. Now, the article says, Min Hee-jin's side responded that after she became HYBE's chief brand officer, aka CBO, in 2019, multiple media outlets reported that Min Hee-jin's girl group will be HYBE's first. The members, they said, naturally joined with that expectation, and preparations for a debut indeed began. The delay, they argued, was due to unclear division of responsibilities between Min Hee-jin and producer Bang Seo, especially regarding the music concept. But Source Music presented a May 21st, 2021 HYBE operations report stating that although Min Hee-jin's CBO role was clearly defined, she failed to meet key deadlines and hindered collaboration, inevitably delaying the debut schedule. According to them, Min Hee-jin even demanded expanded authority during this period, forcing Source Music to reluctantly adjust her role, which Dispatch has written an extensive article about, released it last year, and I have fully translated and talked about it in one video, right? Min Hee-jin continued to delay and continue to demand more roles for herself. So I think this photo sums it up. In the beginning, Min Hee-jin had only a branding and visual creative role, but then she slowly took it over. It says roles, and something like shows conversations. Like, for example, email sent to the team and task force by Min Hee-jin. Let's schedule a meeting after my team's vacation next week. Meaning, Min Hee-jin kept saying that, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I don't have time. And here's another conversation between Source Music and CBO office. So basically the office for Min Hee-jin. Hello, sorry for the late response. I'll check with Min Hee-jin tomorrow morning and get back to you. Min Hee-jin said that she has a lot of things to sort out this week, so she suggested scheduling the meeting for next week. I'll check Min Hee-jin's schedule for Thursday or Friday, but it seems like this week won't work. Sorry for the repeated delays. Min Hee-jin is currently finalizing some internal matters, so it may be difficult to schedule the meeting quickly. What else? And yeah, So Sung-jin was I'm pretty sure he was frustrated. Other HYBE executives like Park Ji-won, the CEO at the time, and Bang Seo were probably frustrated as well. So Sung-jin, Miss Heejin, will we not be able to receive the debut concept and promotion plan for at the time, the project name was something like S21, Team S21, by April? I also heard that it would be better to wait until after you meet with Bang Seo. Yes, I think it's right to give it after it's organized. Bang Seo is on vacation. I think I can meet him next week. I tried to meet him last week, but I wasn't feeling well. So Sung-jin, does the meeting with Seo affect the scope of your work with the team? Min Hee-jin, my priority is organizing my label. Yeah. And then, meanwhile, she continued to have a conversation with the shaman, making her own schemes to take over the project and take away the project, so that she could fully control. And at the time, she also talked about using Bang Seok's money for her plans. She kind of weird plan where she played around with the idea of remaining as a freelancer, staying affiliated with Big Hit while also keeping a foot in Pana as a freelancer. Yeah, and then her playing around with the idea of investing in Pana, which is a label that includes Yogong 250, one of the main producers for NewJeans. So yeah, there are all kinds of stuff included in this article. And then here, conversation between Bang Seok and Park Ji-won, kind of talk about how the whole process has been delayed because of Min Hee-jin. Okay, so I'll include a link to this article. Now we have more to cover, so let's move on. Next section. Did Source Music neglect the members? Min Hee-jin said, the parents were really upset. When we were under Source Music's management, they felt neglected, especially after Sakura and Kim Chae-won joined, which made everyone anxious. Source Music responded, we supported the NewJeans members until right before they were transferred to ADOR. Just 2 months before the transfer, Hani and Minji even appeared in a BTS music video, which is a priceless opportunity given BTS global status. And this is was it last year when the NewJeans camp, Min Hee-jin's camp, even used this to attack HYBE, saying that they kind of forced the members, Hani and Minji, to appear in a BTS music video, and by that, we're talking about permission to dance, and that was driving a lot of people mad. We can talk more about that later. But anyways, so by that, probably what Source Music is saying is that we worked very hard so that the members, the trainees, got full support, and we even worked out so that we persuaded Big Hit to include Honey and Minji as in the music video of an artist none other than BTS for their track Permission to Dance. Anyway, but Min Hee-jin's defense was this, or Min Hee-jin's lawyers claim. The neglect comment, 방치, wasn't my personal opinion. It came from, or her personal opinion, it came from what the parents had said. Typically, debut testing leads to a decision within a month. But NewJeans members were left waiting for more than 6 months. Source Music refuted. We tried to debut them by September 2021. On April 19th, 2021, our CEO So Sung-jin argued Min Hee-jin to complete the delayed branding task. But she replied, sorting out my own label comes first. And resource allocation for the S21 project, that is NewJeans project, will follow. They even presented KakaoTalk messages between Min Hee-jin and a shaman from August 12th, 2021, where Min Hee-jin said, I also wanted to go last. The main characters should appear last, meaning NewJeans. So the main protagonist always appears last. Source Music interpreted this as Min Hee-jin wanting NewJeans to debut after Le Sserafim. Next section. Selling trainees like thugs? Min Hee-jin's remark. I picked NewJeans, cast them, and built their brand, but Source Music demanded shares and even gave me 2 billion Korean won, basically selling them to me. Isn't that so thuggish? So that's what she said during the press conference. Now, Source Music refuted. We are an entertainment agency. Our business relies on trust and reputation. By calling us thugs who sell trainees, Min Hee-jin severely damaged our credibility, shaking the foundation of our operations and harming trainees, staff, and artists. And the article says, Source Music pointed out the hypocrisy. While Min Hee-jin argues the term thug doesn't harm Source Music's reputation, she herself has sued others for calling her that word. Actually, I'm not. Is that what? I'm not sure if that's what actually Source Music said, or that's a part added by Dispatch. That's not really clear in this article. Anyways, Min Hee-jin's counter argument. There's a difference between saying, "Are you thugs?" and "You are thugs." I was merely quoting a past conversation I had with former HYBE CEO Park Ji-won at my press conference. The selling trainees line referred to Source Music demand for ADOR shares during the NewJeans transfer dispute. Source Music concluded, for years, Min Hee-jin sought to monopolize NewJeans' success. The exclusive contract lawsuit already revealed that she tried to have the members terminate their contract with ADOR. Yet, she's now portraying herself as uninvolved, blaming Source Music, and even dragging LE SSERAFIM into the narrative. Because of her statements, LE SSERAFIM, who were in the midst of their rise, ended up unfairly stigmatized. The next hearing for Source Music's 500 million Korean won damage lawsuit against Min Hee-jin is scheduled for December 19th, 2025. And that's the end of the article, and it ends with the conversation between Shaman and Min Hee-jin, where Min Hee-jin asks Shaman for suggestions or recommendations in terms of picking the right debut members for NewJeans. Anyways, yeah. And a lot of NewJeans fans, LE SSERAFIM fans, are super mad that even still, Min Hee-jin and her camp and NewJeans' camp are dragging LE SSERAFIM and Islet into the court case. And I will talk about what Minji has said in court this year. Now, what do you think? So that was the summary of the hearing that just happened yesterday. So reading through Source Music's rebuttal, it's hard to, escape the conclusion, a very simple conclusion, that Min Hee-jin's defense is falling apart piece by piece. And her explanation about the word 양아치, thug, it says it all, right? She mocked Source Music as thuggish, but when netizens used the same word toward her, she took them to court. Then she tried to explain it away by saying that, oh, I asked if they are thugs. I didn't say they are. It's the kind of argument that makes people, I'm pretty sure it's making you roll your eyes. It's like splitting hairs to dodge responsibility, so to say. And her broader claims don't hold up much better either, because she's still clinging to the idea that she cast NewJeans, but Source Music came prepared with records, videos, and testimony showing otherwise. And they have mapped out exactly who discovered and signed each member, leaving no room for her story to stand, at least in court. And the court isn't really buying her loose talk about branding or conceptual direction as proof of actual authority, or at least I hope not. And it seems like the more she talks, the less credible this woman sounds. And I'm pretty sure many of you have already realized that since last year. And her tone used to suggest someone wronged by a big company, well, from some people's perspectives. But now it feels like someone rewriting history to protect her image. But Source Music, for all its corporate formality, is coming across as a more coherent and grounded side here. Now, if that wasn't enough to question her narrative, her latest complaint against HYBE also fell flat, but it also was dismissed again for the same reason as before, because there's simply no evidence. So here's a recent article that came out a couple days ago on November 6th. Min Hee-jin's lawsuit against HYBE dismissed again. Accessing work emails was a legitimate audit procedure. Min Hee-jin's latest criminal complaint against HYBE has once again been dismissed. On November 6th, the Yongsan police station in Seoul decided not to forward to prosecutors the case in which Min Hee-jin accused former HYBE CEO Park Ji-won and Chief Communications Officer Park Tae-hee of violating the Information and Communications Network Act. Min Hee-jin had filed a complaint in November 2024, claiming that the two people had forensically examined the work laptop and email account I used without permission and accessed my KakaoTalk messages, which were then leaked externally. HYBE countered that its actions were part of a legitimate internal audit, which, by the way, the court acknowledged, right? And the article says, Min Hee-jin never returned her company's laptop, the company said, explaining that HYBE simply reviewed materials stored on its internal servers. By the way, I know many of you are still asking, has she still not returned her laptop to the company? The answer is probably no. But the thing is, there's no way to criminally have her responsible for that because she could simply say that, oh, I lost it, and then just pay HYBE with the cost of the laptop for losing it, quote unquote losing it. So if she just does that, there's no way to like force her to return the laptop. Although I'm not sure whether that's what actually happened and whether she actually paid, pay for the laptop. But anyways, I'm just saying that because I still see comments. Has she returned her laptop? Where's the laptop? You know what I'm saying? Anyways, the article says, the police determined that HYBE's data access was a lawful exercise of its audit authority and that there was no illegal activity involved. They also found Min Hee-jin's claim that she had returned her laptop was not substantiated by evidence. Wait. Min Hee-jin이 주장 노트북 받는 입증이 안 된다. Wait. Min Hee-jin claimed that she had returned her laptop? Okay. This one, all right, probably she's lying. And the police says that the claim was not substantiated by evidence. Now, the article says, former ADOR Deputy CEO Lee also filed a similar complaint against Park Ji-won and Park Tae-hee, but the police reached the same conclusion. There was no evidence HYBE had illegally obtained or searched any laptops. This was not Min Hee-jin's first attempt. In July 2024, she had also accused 5 HYBE executives, including Park Tae-hee, of conducting an illegal audit, alleging that HYBE had forcibly seized ADOR-owned laptops and PCs under the pretext of a subsidiary audit. That case, too, ended in dismissal due to insufficient evidence. Police noted that the former ADOR deputy CEO had voluntarily returned the devices and agreed to their review, concluding that no illegal data collection had occurred. And this one we have already talked about, right? For some reason, VP Lee Sang-woo agreed to the audit and very voluntarily, handed over her devices so that they could check. Although mysteriously, he then returned to Min Hee-jin's camp to join her for their fight. So yeah, that guy is a super mysterious figure to me still. The article ends by saying, meanwhile, Min Hee-jin is still engaged in a separate civil lawsuit against HYBE over the payment for shared transactions. Ongoing disputes worth roughly 21 billion Korean won center on the validity of a put option. The third hearing in the case is scheduled for November 27th, 2025. Yep. The end of the year is packed in terms of schedule for Min Hee-jin. So good luck with that. So yeah, the police decision this week, this just came out a couple days ago. It was predictable, but still telling because once again, Min Hee-jin accused HYBE executives of crossing a line. And once again, investigators found no wrongdoing. And the company had every right to review her work laptop and emails, because it was a part of a standard audit, not some act of corporate spying or something. But of course, I'm pretty sure she filed complaints for the optics, for the headlines. But at this point, it's hard not to see that pattern, right? Every time she faces pushback or oversight, she reacts as if she's the victim of a conspiracy. But the facts don't line up with the story that she keeps telling. And the police, the courts, and even her own past words are contradicting her. So, I think by now, Min Hee-jin is more known for lawsuits and contradictions than for any real achievement. And at this rate, I would say it's not HYBE or source music damaging her reputation. It's Min Hee-jin herself. Now, before we wrap, let's briefly talk about this. So, Minji, NewJeans members, this March of this year, back in March, they also spoke in court for their own case, right? And Minji in particular made a statement according to the Korean media. And that was one of the turning points in how people started reevaluating the NewJeans side of the dispute. So in her own words, Minji claimed that she had been treated unfairly as a trainee, that HYBE failed to keep its first girl group promise, and that she only felt safe once she met Min Hee-jin. But when the court later ruled against NewJeans and sided with ADOR, those emotional claims lost their footing, right? And the evidence, as we have learned, showed that there was no contractual promise, no record of discrimination, and no legal basis for her accusations. But Minji's testimony wasn't just a personal story, because it echoed exactly Min Hee-jin's entire narrative. And she even mentioned the name of the Seraphim in court. So repeating the same talking points about neglect, betrayal, and victimhood that Min Hee-jin had been using for months. But when the judgment came down, the court effectively confirmed that both narratives were built on, exaggeration and selective memory, I guess, not provable facts. And once again, it was the court who said there is no objective evidence that Min Hee-jin directly participated in the process of selecting the remaining NewJeans members for source music. And the result is kind of, uncomfortably clear that by now, the NewJeans members became part of Min Hee-jin's strategy, reinforcing her false claims and helping her shape a public image that the evidence could not sustain. So they weren't exactly innocent bystanders, because they were active participants in the messaging that misled a lot of people. Of course, I know a lot of people say that NewJeans members are just gaslit by Min Hee-jin. Although, interestingly, NewJeans members themselves do not really like that point of view, that they are acting independently. And if they are right, they're basically being accomplices here, which is unfortunate. But we gotta remember, at the root of all this case is this woman right here. But yeah, if we think back, Min Hee-jin wasn't the only one manipulating the story. Her quote-unquote daughters, group members, followed her lead. And now that the court rulings have exposed the inconsistencies, both she and the members, I think, share responsibility for how far this narrative spun away from the truth. Again, super unfortunate. And at the same time, we got to talk about NewJeans' parents as well, right? What are they doing? Anyways, that was the article. That was what happened recently in court. What do you guys think? Which side is more credible for you? And which was the most memorable part from this hearing? at least the one told by dispatch, and which of the arguments was the most striking for you? And what do you think about Source Music having prepared all these receipts to use against Min Hee-jin? And how do you think the decision will come out, the legal decision will come out as for this case? Leave all your thoughts in the comments, and I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, and as always, let's stay positive, respectful, and classy. Peace and love. Bye-bye.